Welcome, 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 welcome to Librarian Collaboration, Leadership, and Mentoring. I'm excited for this one. Anytime we get to talk about, work with, honor our librarians, I am all about it. So who am I? You may say, well, hello, I'm Dr. Desiree Alexander. I'm the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and I'm very happy to be with you today. These are all of the different ways you can contact me. If you are watching us on the YouTube channel, no, you don't get a certificate, but you do get the knowledge. And right underneath this video, in the description, you will find the link to the resource. Do not miss that. So definitely go and grab that resource. All right, what do we have coming up? So Sunday, July 24th, if you get my newsletter, it said no, this is the wrong one. It's not Sunday. I should have updated it. Yeah, it's Wednesday, July 24th. So if you saw my newsletter, it says Sunday, and people are like, what? It's Wednesday, July 24th, 10 to 10:50. I'll be doing fast hacks so you can go for productivity at the virtual DLC. If you've ever attended the side fair, DLC is always awesome and it's always free. Okay, disrupting deficit language in educational spaces. I am so thrilled for this topic, and it will be coming to us on July 27th. That's not next weekend, but it's the next weekend. So there you go. You have 1 weekend to recover from this awesome webinar, and then you'll be coming on back. And then on August 17th, we have whole book approach with picture books. And it's one of those sessions I told her, I was like, hey, are you only looking at, are you only talking to like, elementary teachers? Like, oh my gosh, no, I'm talking to everyone to use picture books everywhere. And I was like, good, because I know in high school and middle school, I definitely use picture books with my content. So can't wait for this one. So again, we have a lot of different sessions coming up in the fall that we have not released just yet, but we always have our self-paced courses online for test prep, SLLA. I know a lot of people are trying to get their educational leadership certifications. I have classes and a book for that, all kind of good stuff. And then you can always tell me what you want to see and what you want to present right here at this link, edalex.net/events. So you can get to all this information, register for the upcoming webinars, get the information for everything at that link. And also, again, tell me what you want to see. If you're like, I really wish she would do a webinar about blah, 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 let me know. Or I really want to present. I'm a new presenter. Come. We love new presenters. And you know what? I've been presenting since I was 8. We love you too. Come present. So there you go. So I'm going to be quiet and I want to get started with what you came here for, to learn about librarian collaboration, mentorship. I'm all about it. So what we're going to do is start the webinar now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here during a Saturday, a summer Saturday at that. I hope everyone can hear me and see my screen. It should say Meet by a Librarian. I am so glad you guys are here today. So the first thing I like to do is introduce myself. My name is Tanya Haynes, and on the screen you see a little bit about my educational background. So I originally got my bachelor's degree from Xavier University in New Orleans, woo woo, for XU. And then following that, I decided to go back to school and get my master's in library information science from Houston University, University of Houston, Clear Lake, go Hawks, woo woo. And then for some unknown reason, I decided I want to go back and get some instructional leadership information as far as being a principal. And I'm so glad I had that experience. Decided not to do principalship, but I have that knowledge, so I'm very grateful for that. Also, you see my praying hands. So I'm a woman of faith. I work actively in my community and church as a greeter. I also work with the ladies ministry, and I also work with our Christian education department. I've been doing that for quite some time. And my last set of pictures are my beautiful family. I love, love, love my husband. We've been married for 31 years, and he is my best friend and one of my biggest cheerleaders. I'm also the wife of an Air Force veteran. And that's our son. He's always my son, but he's older now. He's in college and he's working. So that's our family. And recently, I just want you guys to know that, just FYI, this is a participation type of webinar. So I know some things and you know some things. I am not the sage on the stage. So this is like a learning community. So when we have those participation slides, please, please, please jump in and feel free to talk, okay? So right now, here we go. Did my slide change? There we go. So this is a copyright notice. This presentation or parts thereof may not be reproduced in any form, stored in any retrieval system, or transmitted in any form by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopy, recording, or otherwise without prior written permission of me, the publisher, excerpt as provided by the United States of America copyright law. We all know as librarians about intellectual property and giving credit to the owner. So that's just a little reminder. All right, so let's get started. As librarians, we love data, right? So I realize and see that there is a problem. So looking at this state report, this information, as you can see, is from one of our states, but I found this to be true across the United States. We have some issues in learning based on our state tests. So on the left side of the screen, you should see 2 years, 2021, 2022, grade 3 reading. And most of the teaching campuses I've been on, I've had a lot of at-risk and economically disadvantaged students. So I just pulled out some of the data. This report is multi-pages, like I'm sure most states are. But look at our 3rd grade reading data at risk. In this particular state, it says meets. So only 21% of our students are at the meets level. And only 8% of our at-risk students are at the master's level. Economically disadvantaged is a little bit better, 25%, 10%. And then the next year, 2022, there were some gains, right? From 21% to 33%, and masters almost doubled from 8% to 16%. And then now compare that to English 1. At risk. There's 25% of the students meeting the standard, only 2%. English 1 in this state is 9th grade, so only 2% are mastering. And there is, again, you can see there's some growth to 2022, 29% and 2% mastering, okay, at meets. And the same is pretty much with math on the right side, right? Our at-risk students are not getting it. Only 17% are meeting it. So we have a problem, okay, in our country, right? We have a problem. And looking at, that's 3rd grade math. Look at Algebra 1, at risk, 21% meeting the standard, only 8% mastering. And although there's growth from year to year, there is a problem. And I believe that librarians can help with the solution, okay? So as I said before, this is only one state, but this is across the country. So there are some learning problems, okay? There are some learning problems. Teachers inherit normally students that are 2 to 3 and maybe more grade levels below what students should be at, okay? So we have some academic challenges as teachers, as librarians. Student failures are real. They're in the classroom with unit tests and weekly tests. And as I showed you, state testing, everything is down across the board. So one reason for this is limited resources, right? Administrators are struggling. There's staffing changes. I know at my school, because we were a low-income school, we often had challenges with teachers staying on board, right? That shift in teaching changes a lot, right? When you have to start over with a 3rd grade partner teachers, or a 4th grade or a 5th grade or a 9th grade, that makes a difference, right? And budgets are shrinking. And I think administrators and higher up leaders are making changes as librarians that we don't always agree with, right? They're always cutting and looking where they can make up for those funding shortages. And sometimes the libraries suffer and we don't agree with it and we don't want that to happen. So how can we fix it? They have a problem and we are the solution. So today we're going to show you how the library can be at work. So I have a participation poll for you. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least and 5 being the greatest, I want you to rate yourself collaboratively and the strategies that you've used over the last 2 years. So I thought this would be a little fun. I'm a child of the 80s, right? So I want you to think about this old show, Different Strokes, right? Hopefully you've heard of it. But he used to say, "What you talking about, Willis?" So if your collaborative efforts are like nothing, it just didn't work, you tried, you hit your head on the door, it just didn't work, then you would be a number 1. What you talking about, Willis? But I don't know if anybody remembers the show, The Facts of Life. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both. And you didn't know I could sing, right? But anyway, so Facts of Life with Trudy and Natalie. So if your efforts were a little bit better, you would go with a 2. What about number 3? One of my favorite shows, Walker, Texas Ranger. It's about justice. He was kicking down doors. So maybe you're kicking down doors in your library and you've made some very, very good strides, but you're not quite where you want to be. And then this old cartoon, Hey, 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 it's Fat Albert. And they were all partying and having a good time on that intro, right? So maybe you're in the library and everybody's collaborating and you have teachers on board and everything's just going, woo. But you're a number 5 if you're Wonder Woman, okay? Not WW, not Weight Watchers. Yes, I know about them, but not Weight Watchers, okay? This is Wonder Woman. All the world is waiting for you. So I want you to go ahead and type it in the chat if you're a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on your collaborative efforts, and be able to share a little bit about why you think you rated yourself that way, okay? So if you're a 5, while you're typing it in the chat, if you're a 5, if your administrator comes to you, you're a 5 if all your teachers come to you, your parents come to you, like that's a 5. The whole library is working the way you envision it in your mission and vision statements. So how would you rate your collaborative efforts the last year, or maybe you have to back up to the year before that? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. All right, do we have anything in the chat, Dr. Desiree?
We have a 4.
A 4. Awesome. So I would like the person who typed 4, if you don't mind hopping on the mic and sharing something that you've done that was collaborative in nature, because you're having a party in your library. Is 4 with us? If not, we're going to keep going. All right, so maybe you'll be able to share later. All right, so let's go on, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about some things that I've done and I've seen over 25 years in education as an educator. So collaboration is very, very important. So think about the lesson cycle, okay? Here is where the librarian himself or herself, yes, I've seen and met male librarians. So I say that purposefully because we need some more men in librarianship. But you are the resource. You are the resource. I think a lot of times people forget that we have teachers' degrees, that we went to school and we know all about that. So think as a librarian, how can I insert myself as the resource into a teacher's lesson cycle? This is a simple type of way. Think about maybe your attention grabber. Can you go into a classroom and do an attention grabber for a specific lesson or for a specific unit for your teacher? What about, can you do an exit ticket for your teacher? Or maybe when the teacher is pulling small groups, you can walk around and help facilitate the other students that are working independently with them. So with this simple method of being part of the lesson cycle, the librarian is collaborative in that he or she goes out and works with that teacher in order to make sure things are happening, students are learning. So we decrease that deficit that I showed you earlier in our state report. So another thing that's the simple method, okay? You go in as you're the resource and you're helping the teacher. The next thing is a little bit more complex. This is where you do co-teaching. And this requires maybe that you sit down with the teacher and you do planning with the teacher to know exactly how you guys are going to co-teach. This is not just independent, simple, you're doing one aspect of the lesson, but you're actually teaching together and working together. Maybe the teacher does one part of it and then you do the other part of it, and then y'all come together. You may want to teach, like I am by nature an English teacher, right? So I could go into the English class and teach a short story, or I can go in and teach writing, for example. So that's my strength, right? So you can go in and teach your strength, would be a more complex type of inserting yourself into the lesson cycle and through collaboration. Or maybe you want to say, okay, teachers are really not in with that collaboration. Maybe the teacher has a weak spot, right? Maybe they don't like teaching multiplication. Could you go into a math class and teach multiplication or factors, okay? So that would be you teaching that teacher's weakness, would be a little more complex. Now, in my campuses, I know some campuses that have them and some campuses don't, and they have different types of names. So in my campuses, they were called coaches, but some campuses, they're called literacy specialists. So whatever the title is, it could be a lead teacher or, it's different depending on your state and where you are, but work with your coaches or specialists, okay? We had a reading specialist, we had a science specialist, we had a math specialist. Sometimes we had one for 5th grade, one for 6th grade, one for this, or however your state does it, but you want to work with them. So on my campuses, we had a CIP, which is Campus Improvement Plan. So you might want to work with your reading specialist or your science specialist, especially if your scores are low in that area, to write the campus improvement plan for that specific subject area. Another thing that you might want to do is, like, we also had a technology specialist on campus. So you might want to, especially since in our library, the technology and devices were checked out through the library a lot. So maybe you can partner with or collaborate with the ITS, instructional technology specialist, in order to write the goals for that particular technology department. So that's what I mean by working with them, right? Be part of that SIP plan, because that's a very, very, very big deal. A lot of budget dollars often come if you're part of that SIP plan. So I recommend that you have the library part of that separately, because I would get monies for that. But you also want to work with your whatever department, reading, math, science, that you can help them write those scores. So I've done that before, okay? So help them draft that. Also work for them. By that, I mean, like, come on, these resources in the English book room, woo, they're so antiquated and so old, right? Some of those resources, like To Kill a Mockingbird is a classic, right? But do we still need that in our book rooms? Why aren't we using some more contemporary books, right? So your reading specialist or reading coach or whatever the title is might need some help reading some books out of those book rooms, right? So volunteer to help them, and then recommend what books they can replace with more contemporary types of books. As librarians, that's perfect. That's right up our alley. So that's what I mean by work for, help suggest books and weed out some of those old books, okay? Another thing is stay in the curriculum loop working for them, right? So our learning management system, some people might use Schoology. I forgot the name of the other one, but whatever your learning management system is that the whole school uses to access information and data, whatever that is, you should be part of that third grade class or that ninth grade class or 12, whatever it is, you should be part of multiple subject areas, whatever that class is, because that helps you to stay in the loop. You can make recommendations for them when they're planning their lessons and planning their units, okay? So let's go on to, that's collaboration. So here's a participant poll, same type of thing, but I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 being the least and 5 being the greatest for your visible, campus leadership over the last 2 years. Are you on 1? What you talking about? They don't even know the library exists. They don't know anything about the library. Or 2, the facts of life. You venture out of the library a little bit. You lead around the campus. Or are you a 3, Walker, Texas Ranger? It's about justice and everybody knows you're a campus leader. 4 is hey, 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 it's Fat Albert. Maybe you are participating in those instructional leadership. We call them ILT meetings, those instructional leadership, where all the specialists and all of the coaches come together. Instructional coaches, by that I mean, come together. So you're in those meetings, you're saying valuable things, you're bringing up literacy and how it relates to the student. Or maybe you're a 5. Your principal goes to you. Like one time I was a Wonder Woman. I was in charge of being selecting or not selecting, or I would should say be in charge of the teacher of the month. We had a teacher of the month. So I would have to poll the teachers and they voted. And then I took pictures and I put that up on the bulletin boards and notified everybody of who the teacher of the month was. So, and the paraprofessional. So that was a real Wonder Woman thing that year. I was asked to do that. So think about your leadership role and how other people see you and rate yourself. Type it in the chat. And if you would like to come on the mic, be ready to tell us why you rated yourself 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. All right. So hopefully you're getting your thoughts together. And Dr. Desiree, let me know if we have anything in the chat so far.
From the last time, the person that put a 4, she says that I have a mini class library and my fellow teachers have gotten ideas. I am a co-teacher as a high school special educator. And then this time, someone said a 3 since I'm not an actual librarian.
Okay, awesome. Well, I love the fact that the 4 person said that they help with the classroom library, if I heard that correctly. That is awesome. Teachers really, really need help with that classroom library, because here's what I found with collaboration, going back to that point. A lot of teachers may not have time or know what the most updated books are and where students' hearts are for the different types of genres and the I want to say they call them comic books, but really they're graphic novels. So helping with that is instrumental. And I know teachers would love that, because I actually develop a checklist. And I would have to, I don't even know where that is, but somewhere in my files, I develop a checklist for what teachers should be looking for their classroom library. So that is awesome. And so thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate that. And
we do have another person. We have a number 3 that said for a number 3 for our school librarian because she participates with the school leadership meeting once every week.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Well, that is fabulous. You want to have a voice. And in those meetings, a lot of decisions are made. So if you are not in that school leadership meeting weekly, I know ours occurred weekly unless something happened, but we had them weekly. You really need to be part of that. That shows your leadership skills, and you can add a little another feather in your cap as far as that being a leader. And that looks really good on your resume as well. So leadership is very, very, very important. We have to lead by example. There's this, I should say, inspirational speaker. His name is Myron Golden. He talks about mindset for leaders. He talks about skill set for leaders, and he talks about tool set for leaders, right? So we have to use all of these things to educate our community. In the library world, we call it advocacy, right? But it's basically educating your community about what you do. We have to not only show, but we have to tell, right? We have to show what we do and we have to tell. As librarian leaders, we can no longer be silent. If we are silent, they will close the doors of the library. And as we have seen throughout many states, unfortunately, they are shutting them down or they're replacing them with paras. If you have a para, we love paras, we need paras, but we don't want our position to be replaced by a para because we do so much more that paras are not in a know of all the time, right? So educate your colleagues about what you do, okay? Do that as much as you can. Sometimes I would do infographics, newsletters. You know, Dr. Alexander does newsletters. Hopefully you're doing some type of newsletter. Maybe you can't do it every month, but I've done it monthly. I've done it quarterly. Like whatever works for you, you have to educate your community on what is happening in the library, how you are changing those students' lives, and not just what do they call it, the social skills, but academically, how are they improving, okay? Also, lunchtime, get out of the library. I know sometimes that was a hard one for me, but if you're always in the library, they may not see your leadership. So sometimes once a week, set a goal for yourself. I'm going to go eat in the teacher's lounge. And while they're talking about their classes and their students and what's happening there, you talk about the library, what your goals are, what's happening in the library, what happened with this. That's one thing that you can do to educate your colleagues. Another thing that you can do is educate students, parents, and guardians. Please, please, please do not take that for granted. We see that a lot now. I know in Texas, there are parents saying, hey, don't close our libraries. We need our libraries. The only way that can happen is if you've had a relationship with parents and you show leadership in the library beforehand. So develop a relationship with your students' parents and guardians. They will be there for you, whether it's working to shelve books, whether it's working to keep the library open. They will help you with book fairs or whatever you need done, but you have to educate them, showing them what you do and how they are needed and how they are connected to that community. I think I'm going on a little spiel there. But anyway, the next one is literacy liaisons, okay? What resources are the library having? It's like great to have all these wonderful books and you're updating your collection and you genrefied it and it's all well and good. But if you're not showing that to the teachers and the parents and everybody, they need to know what's in there. If your databases are not being used, which hopefully you're checking your databases every month to see how they're being used. If there's little usage, then funds are eventually going to be cut and you don't want that. So you need to show them the numbers, show them how these resources are getting used, okay? And people. One of the things I love about the library is it's not as restricted as the classroom. So you can bring in people, right? So I would have like a books alive presentation where the book comes to life. The students love that. The principal loved that. And that happened for us right after the pandemic. And you know, a lot happened during the pandemic, right? So having the actors come in and actually act out the picture book, it was phenomenal. I have fifth graders just sitting there, sixth graders just loving the book, okay? So it worked out really well. So bring people into your school. Authors visits is another way to show leadership, especially in the literacy area. Also, there are traveling art shows. I know one of the high schools here did a traveling art show. And so they had art exhibited in the library for however long, I don't know how long it was, 1 week, 2 weeks, but students could come in at lunchtime, or you can set up classes to come and see the artwork. Another thing that you could do to show leadership is bringing in like zoos or different things. I know here in our state, they had traveling exhibits. And so alligators, baby alligators would come, and or birds or whatever. But in our state, you can check out those types of things to see what organizations would be willing to come in. And all of that's part of literacy, especially for those students who may not experience it otherwise if they have low socioeconomic families. So that's another way to show leadership. All right, so this is our last one, which is about mentorship. So on a scale of 1 to 5, rate your mentorship skills over the last 2 years. Get it in your mind. You may want to type it in the chat. You're 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. What you're talking about, Willis, is 1. Facts of Life is 2. Walker, Texas Ranger, you made some progress. 4 is like a party in the library. You're mentoring teachers. You're mentoring paraprofessionals. Like that would be a 5. If you're the Wonder Woman and you're just mentoring everybody that you can mentor, type that in the chat and let us know. And I was able to mentor my paraprofessionals. I've had several over. I was blessed to have a paraprofessional position. I know everybody doesn't have that, but I was able to mentor and train paraprofessional in the library. I also was able to mentor a lot of teachers. That was a really blessing. They would come to me and ask me things, not only about curriculum and what they thought about books, but some other like personal stuff, because stuff went down in schools. And I mean, people were crying, and it's like a whole thing in the library. So, all right, Dr. Desiree, do we have any 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s?
We do. We have a number 2, and it says our librarian can do better in the mentoring area.
Okay. Yeah, and it's not easy. And here's the thing with the library. It's normally, well, most of the schools I've been at, modern day schools, the library is in the center of the school. So the physical location of the library, we have to take advantage of that. Like one of my campuses, people literally had to walk through the library to get to their classroom or get to the office or go to lunch. So I wasn't bothered by that. Some people's like, oh, that's too much traffic. It's going to be noise. No, I want all the traffic. I want all the, come on in, see what we're doing and all of that good stuff. Because that's a way that you can say, hey, hope your day is going good. Or how can I help you? You know, put a little bug in their ear to talk to them. So for mentorship, we need to mentor students, obviously, okay? As individuals, as humans, as part of this human race, we grow because of our relationships with other people, right? I look to Dr. Alexander as a mentor. She's somewhere I want to be in a few years, right? So everybody needs a mentor, right? That's going to help our potential to grow. So with students are doubtful. They are not too sure about themselves, whether they're elementary or secondary. They're very doubtful about who they are as a person. They're still learning who they are, right? So they need direction. So students need you, the librarian, to direct them in the right path. I would always talk to my students, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You're too young for a boyfriend. We're not going there, because when they try to talk about boyfriends, no. But that was in elementary school. But anyway, yes, I was mom. I'm mentoring them, right? And discipline. Students need discipline as well. So remember, they're doubtful, they need direction, and they need that discipline. And students can get that through recreation, right? So I have book clubs, right? And sometimes You know, we're not like teachers in that moment. You don't have to get the theme of this book. You don't have to know the climax. We're just talking about the book. So if the conversation steers, if they're making a connection to those characters in the book and that relates to their life, it's okay for them to talk about it. It's okay for them to relate. That's a chance for you to mentor that student in that particular area of their life. And if it's coming out in that conversation, they really need that help. Okay. So we have board games, like whatever clubs you have. One time I had a crocheting club, right? And one of our young men led that, right? And it was awesome. So it's important that even during those recreational times that you allow yourself, when the opportunity presents itself, to mentor those students. And also you can mentor them instructionally. So like I said before, my schools are always low performing schools. And so at one point, all the ILT would take a group of 25 to 35 students. And before state mandated testing, we would meet one-on-one with those students. Okay. We had a little, what do you call that? Like a question and answer thing to ask students. Well, how do you want to do better on your test? And they would tell us, I want to increase by 5%, or I want to pass, or whatever it is. So instructionally, you're able to mentor students as well. So we would complete that. Every coach, the librarian, instructional specialist, whatever, were assigned like the lowest students in the school. And we help them make those goal settings, right, for themselves. And most of the time, students improve. They may not have reached their goal, but they improved and they went into that test a little bit more confident. Okay. So another thing for instructional is, I have book clubs, like I said, crochet clubs, whatever. You might have a technology club, but you should be checking their report cards every 9 weeks or every 6 weeks. You should be asking for their progress reports. So, and sometimes it hurt my heart. Some of my best workers would come to the library and they're working so hard in the library, shelving books and doing things, but they're failing in math. They're failing in reading. They're failing in PE. Come on. How can you fail PE? Stress out, okay? All you have to do is stress out, okay? But anyway, so we should be looking at their report cards, progress reports, checking on them. If we know that they're not doing well or didn't pass their state mandated tests last year, and how is it going this year? Are you getting ready? Those are some additional conversations we should be having to mentor them, okay? Also, with teachers, we can mentor them as well. All teachers need mentoring, whether they know it or not, but we're here to the rescue, right? The librarian is a specialist and we can help. So sometimes teachers need to be aware, right? They need an awareness that they need help, especially if they're a new teacher. They need that awareness. If your library is centrally located in the school building, it can become automatic if you're intentional about your mentoring efforts, right? Have that strategy or plan of how you're going to mentor them without it. And sometimes they don't even have to know you're mentoring them. You're just playing that mentoring role and they don't even realize it. Okay. And then if you're really good at it, they may realize, wow, I'm being mentored. And then there's going to be an acceptance. So there's an awareness for teacher, there's an automatic, and then there's an acceptance of it. So with beginning teachers, I say a beginning teacher is like 0 years to 3 years experience. You can mentor them in classroom management. Every teacher needs help if they're a novice teacher in classroom management. Please help them. It never failed at my school. Mostly the new teachers would struggle with classroom management and they were always calling the administrator or disciplinarian, whatever you have, or they were doing a lot of write-ups. And so you're a teacher as a librarian, help them with that classroom management. Now, if also if they're a beginning or novice teacher, you can help them know in your school system or district what the expectations are district wide, right? or school system wide. Help them to know as a beginning teacher, this is what we do in this school system. This is what we do in this district. For experienced teachers, I classify that as like 4 years and up. They need help as well. I would say for them, they would need maybe more help, not with classroom management, although some may need help with that, but they may need help with their actual lesson plans and making sure all of that is on point, making sure that they're actively involved in the campus structure. Whatever the norms are for that campus, they may need a little more help with that. So if you've been there, especially several years, you can help with what the principal's expectations are for more experienced teachers. So hopefully that will help everyone. All right, so next, oops, I went too fast. Now, normally, because time is getting away, I ask people about I do this normally to ponder, plan, and pair. So what I would like you to do in your mind is think about something that you may have heard today. Maybe it was a collaborative strategy or a leadership strategy or a mentoring strategy. Plan how you would implement this or revise it to meet your campus needs for the upcoming school year. How do you plan to implement and rate yourself? You can have your own little party. I'm going to be a Wonder Woman. I'm going to be a Fat Albert, hey party. But ponder what you've heard today. Plan. Maybe you compare with another librarian that is in your school system or district, or maybe a colleague, someone you've met at a professional development. Say, hey, let's do this together. We're going to plan our collaborative strategy or leadership strategy and have that partner to follow up with to see how you're doing with that strategy. All right, so let me tell you about myself. Basically, I did a project we had an ESL teacher, or I think it was ESL interventionist. We had an interventionist and a specialist because we had a large ESL population. But so the ESL, English as a second language interventionist, was also the student council advisor. I was the librarian, so I don't remember if it was my book club students or my library aides, but we decided to use this picture book, and I love this picture book. If you haven't heard of it, hopefully you have. Peter Reynolds, Say Something. Put something in the chat if you've read this or used this book. It is an awesome book. And I think with our students today, there's so much going on, right? Negative, a lot of students need help. They come from home environments that I would never have dreamed of, and it's so unfortunate. But anyway, this is an awesome book. So we were teaching students about, she used her student council club members or student council. I use my aides or my book club members. And this is what we did. We talked to our principal first, and we said we wanted to partner with one of our feeder schools. So this was a 5th grade and 6th grade campus. So we used 5th and 6th grade students to go read books or this book to the elementary feeder school. So we made an appointment with the elementary school principal after our principal approved it. And we sat down, we told her the book, we told her we wanted our students to come in and read to the lower classes, 1st grade, 2nd grade, kindergarten. So they picked the classes, they did everything. And we had to get permission forms because we walked with our students. That's how close our feeder school was. We could just literally walk across the street. So parents had to sign permission forms. And while we got all that together, the books were purchased with library funding, and we left those books in those classrooms. So we added, somebody mentioned classroom libraries earlier. So we added those books, at least one per classroom we went in, to that classroom library, and the students loved it. Our students loved it. We did have to train them how to speak up, use their voice, how to turn the page, not read like this, right? You're reading out loud. You have to show the pictures. And we did 2 by 2. So we did one student council member, one library aide or book club member, went into each of those chosen classrooms that the feeder school chose. And then after they read the book, we had a coloring sheet because most of these authors have some type of activity that goes with it. So we had a coloring sheet or something that showed how they could use their own voices in their own lives, in their own situations. So that particular project was showing all of it, right? Collaboration with another coach in the school or interventionist or my colleague in the school. It was showing leadership. We had to talk to our principal. We had to talk to a neighborhood principal, the feeder school principal, and we were mentoring our students, and we ended up mentoring those students in that feeder school as well, even if it was for only that day. But the teachers loved it when we went in the classroom, and that was a big, big, big success. All right, so here's a professional resource. This book is called The Networked Librarian. I have not yet read this book, but based on when I found this author, Sarah Pavey, it sounded like everything that I've already talked to you about. Her main points in this professional resource is community, networking, and partnership. So as you look in your incoming budget for this school year, hopefully you have a budget. But if not, you need to watch that other video that I did for Dr. Alexander about school budgets, optimizing your school budget. But anyway, I digress. This book is going to be a page turner, and it will help you in those areas of collaboration, leadership, and mentorship that we talked about today. So this book just released in February 2024. This is an excellent author, and she has a wealth of knowledge. So buy this book if you can, okay? All right, the next thing I wanted to share with you is basically there is a lot of problems in our, unfortunately, in our school systems, right? There are some problems, and we are the solution. And we are the solution because we have expert personnel, and they need to know that. There are budgeted resources, whatever your resources are, you need to use them and flaunt them and let them know that the library is here and we're not going anywhere. And they're always, they meaning the higher ups, are looking for a solution, but they never think the library can be that solution. So I challenge you today to think about how you can be that solution. Go back, look at your state data. Look at your school campus data. As an ILT member, you should be seeing what areas your school is struggling in, whether it's math or science. And it might be overwhelming in the beginning, right? So just maybe pick one area that's most needed and targeted that for that school year, and then pick up with another one next school year. But use your data to innovate your resources and your time, because we are the solution to their problems, at least one of them. So I also talked about I also talked about partnerships. I learned about this. This is, I call my, what do you call that? My Saturday Spotlight. There is a program called Books Are Fun, and they have a book blast. This business has been in business for 32 years. Last semester, they gave out over 4.2 million books in 49 different states. And this is a free program that you may consider bringing to your campus if they're an approved vendor. And basically what happens is that every student gets a minimum of one free book. They may get more depending on their participation in the program, okay? So there's the Books Are Fun Book Blast has a treasure map, and the students have to go solicit their family, friends, whoever, through emails or text message to help get them on board. And if your teachers are really pushing this, because they can push it better than us normally, right? If teachers participate and 60% of their students are participating, they can have $100 from the store that they can buy supplies or whatever. And if 100% of their students participate, then the teacher gets an incentive of $200 from, and they have all types of books and other different things that teachers often spend their own money on. But this company is willing to give them those supplies for free. And I'm looking at my time. Okay, so I'm gonna try. Oops, I went back instead of forward. So, I did that again. Sorry. Here we go. All right. So this is the resource that gives you information about Book Blast. And you would have to go to my website, which Dr. Alexander put that in the chat for you. So when you go to my website, let me see. Oh, it went back again. Why is it going back instead of forward? I don't know why that's happening. I love technology. It does weird things. But I was just going to click to show you what that looks like. So that source you can download, but for some reason it's not letting me click it. It's weird. So let me see if it does it. Okay, here we go. Real quick. I think I got 4 minutes left. All right, so this is my website. These are my past appearances and training. It's still pulling up with Dr. Alexander. And so I talked about the school library budget one. I also did one on flexible schedules. This is a podcast that I appeared on. These are the training resources, so you can download those particular, that resource that I talked about, okay? All right, so let's see if I can stop sharing. Let's see. And I think that is all.
That was wonderful. Now, I do want to point out on your website, I don't see the title of this. So can you tell us?
Oh, thank you for saying that. So I honestly, I wanted to incorporate that collaboration, mentorship, and leadership. So I call it School Libraries That Work. And so it's the same thing. It's the last thing on there. Let's see if I could go back to it. So it would be this one. Your problem, our solution, libraries at work. So that will be that one. But it talks about the collaboration. It talks about the leadership and the mentoring. So it's going to be this one. Thank you for saying that, Dr. Alexander.
Of course. Well, thank you so much. That was amazing. I appreciate it. I love hearing about librarians promoting their library. When I was a librarian, that was very important because you don't want to be looked at as the extra person on campus or anything like that. Like you want to show everyone your value. So it's very important to collaborate, to be that mentor, to be that person that speaks up and says, hey, I can do that. I can help. I can, so loved it. Doing programming, just so much stuff you can do as a librarian to just better your whole community, because the library is the heart of the school. So hearing you speak to that is just wonderful. So thank you so very much.